Hello everyone and welcome back to Whisky Wednesday. Today I'm going to be talking about a rather impressive blended whisky called the Compass Box Artist Blend. But first, before that, I need to talk to you about something else which is quite important. This is a brand called Zbiotics. With the holiday season and Christmas and everything getting particularly close now, we're all going to be invited to so many more like functions and social events and that kind of thing. The beauty of Zbiotics is that this product that they've made allows you to enjoy yourself the night before without having to worry about feeling bad the next day. What they've done is they've produced a product which has an enzyme in it, which essentially is the same enzyme which breaks down alcohol in your liver, and it just allows you to drink responsibly. Make sure you get a good night's sleep and everything, but if you have one of these before your first alcoholic drink, it essentially will assist you in making everything a little bit easier. These are the bottles, rather snazzy little things. All you do is you crack the plastic on this. I probably should have prepared for this a little bit beforehand. And essentially you drink this before your first alcoholic drink of the night. And all that does is it allows your unprepared gut to just welcome the alcohol a little bit more and allow you to enjoy your night without feeling particularly tired the next day. So, you drink it. I'll put that back in the box so it doesn't make any noise. And you can then enjoy the first sip of your drink without having to worry about everything the next day. But do remember to pace your drinking, drink responsibly, and do get a good night's sleep. And a personal recommendation, make sure you eat before you go out. That's always a good thing too. But they come in multiple sizes. I've got the packet of 6 here. If you go to Zbiotics' website, you can get them in multiple sizes, I think up to 100 units. And I think you can get 20% off if you subscribe to their website as well. But if you use this discount code below, which is Whisky Wednesday, this is for US subscribers only, so apologies to everyone else in the rest of the world right now. If you use this discount code, you can get 15% off by using Whisky Wednesday. Or if you go to zbiotics.com/Whisky Wednesday, you can also save a little bit of money too. But quite neat little branding, quite like it, very useful. That is Zbiotics, so thank you all for listening to that. But now on with Compass Box. I'm going to show you all a little graph, if my phone still has it and the brightness on my phone doesn't blind out the camera. Or maybe it will. Let's adjust that all the way down. We all know and love Compass Box for numerous different reasons. Hopefully my camera can pick that up quite nicely. I'll go into more detail about it now. Fantastic company, doing loads of different things to make sure whiskey is transparent, whiskey is interesting. All of their products used to be extremely affordable back in the day. They do have an expensive range now, and I can't blame them for that. Why wouldn't you when you can make really good whiskey? Why not make some of it a bit premium? But what we're talking about today is a £36 bottle of blended whiskey, which for some people is the best blend and the most consistent blend they go back to. I do think it's very good. I'll score everything at the end. But nonetheless, let me talk to you about this little graph. So, 45% of this entire product is from first fill bourbon casks from the Cameronbridge distillery. Great grain distillery, it's owned by Diageo. They churn out something like 70 to 100 million litres of whiskey a year. Insane. That's 45% of the whole blend. 8% of the blend is a Highland malt blend, matured in medium toast custom French oak casks. I don't know if it's some of this stock, but Compass Box now actually has whiskey which they've fully aged themselves, not distilled themselves, but had in storage for so long that it's now technically sort of their whiskey. And we all know how John Glazer and his team love a custom blend, which is a bit cloak and dagger, which I think is nice. 5% of the product comes from revatted Palo Cortado sherry cask from Linkwood. That's pretty fun. 10% is from first fill bourbon Clynelish. Great. 10% is from first fill bourbon Blamenach, and then 22% is from first fill bourbon Linkwood. A lot of my favourite malt distilleries in there. Linkwood, Clynelish. I love a bit of Blamenach, but you don't see too much of it these days. This has been in the glass for quite a while, and it's kind of scented, this room. It's quite a small room, but the scents that are coming out of this thing are pretty comfy and welcoming. There's actually some notes on the front of this bottle, right, which say fruity, creamy, and rich. And I've got to say, just from smelling it, obviously I've already had a taste of it too, but just from smelling it, it has this kind of fruity, creamy thing to it. I don't know about rich, but I suppose everyone's got their own different tastes. Literally coming off this glass, we've got this kind of apple core, like green apple core, or when you like bite into an apple or kind of cut the first slice out of it, that kind of wisp of mist and juice that kind of hits your senses. That's in bucket loads coming out of this thing. There's a beautiful malty biscuit note to it. I'm not going to associate that to a particular distillery because all distilleries have a kind of malty biscuitiness to them, as you would expect from single malt whiskies. But there's also a slight toffee caramel thing. And I expected that to be higher in terms of where it sits in the smelling ratio, because most of this is first fill bourbon from Speyside and Highland distilleries, and a grain whiskey too. But it's not this thick caramel bourbon whiskey, it's lighter and a bit fresher. But the malty biscuity honey notes in this are particularly delicious. And if I can move my head out of shot, the way it coats the glass is particularly impressive too. It's a 43% non-chill filtered, natural coloured blended whiskey. And I'm not getting tons of influence from the sherry. It is only 8% of the product, so I wouldn't expect to. But lying underneath this apple malty thing, there's like bits of cinnamon, bits of kind of Christmassy cooking spices. I hate cinnamon, and I'm not a big fan of things like nutmeg and stuff unless it's on like grated on the top of an Irish coffee or something. But luckily, the way it's coming across is like that. It's just an element of cinnamon and an element of nutmeg. There's also some like, how to describe it? Almost like jelly notes. Think about like flavoured gelatin. We used to get these huge cubes of gelatin as a kid, and like they were black currants, or they were bright purple, or they were raspberry and they were red. Some of those summery fruits in that too, which I would expect from refill bourbon, Linkwood and Blamenach. Absolutely, Blamenach has always been for me like quite a strawberry kind of blackberry kind of whiskey. But a wonderful nose, not sharp, not biting, not clawing, not as sweet as it should be. Certainly not as dense with sickly sweetness. But let's taste it. You get that really nice build-up of kind of ginger and like soft spices, which I think is mostly Linkwood, because Linkwood for me has always been this kind of like gingery green, slightly herbaceous Speyside whiskey. The Blamenach is really providing those nice kind of soft fruit notes that are mixing in with that gingery, cinnamony, soft spice kind of thing. Much like any blended whiskey, no matter what the percentage of it is, no matter what the makeup of it is, on the finish, which is still relatively quite long, I'm talking to you now and I can still feel these flavours, you still do get that slight acetone nail varnish remover thing that you get with grain whiskey, but that's just inherent. That cannot be helped. One of the reasons this is so affordable is because 45% of it is grain whiskey. There aren't many blends in the world which are higher than 30% malt whiskey as a whole. So 55% of it being malted barley, or single malt whiskey rather, is a nice balance in contrast, but the grain still comes through. You're not really going to get away from that. But I don't mind that flavour, so it's okay. Wonderfully long finish, and even though it says creamy on the front, I cannot disagree with that in any way at all. It's not what I would describe as an oily whiskey. We're just playing a game of semantics here, but oily whiskey for me has always been things that are very, very high strength and typically quite peaty. I think there's just an association with oil and peat, for me anyway. But this is creamy and it's full-bodied and it's got like a lot of vigour to it. The spice is like just enough to coat and balance out these sweet flavours. And then those softer, fruitier, sweeter notes really kind of piling over the top. And as you take a breath in after you swallowed this, it's the reminder of that nose, of that fresh apple, that honey, that kind of oaty, rich barley thing that's going on with it. Delicious, really, really good. I'm gutted I've not owned more bottles of this, and indeed the last time I saw this and owned it was when it was called, I think, the King Street Blend. There's a peated one called the Glasgow Blend, but now it's just called the Artist Blend, with this rather attractive label and tons of information on the back. But by all means, if you are into Compass Box, you'll know already, but if you've never had a Compass Box product, go to their website, check out all the details. One of the most transparent whiskey makers out there. And this is still an absolute bargain. I do prefer Black Bull 12. That's not to say this isn't good, it is very good. And in current financial times, where you can save a little bit of money on a product, why wouldn't you? Absolutely. This will see me through sort of like the festive period and things with neat drinks and cocktails. But overall, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's a fabulous whiskey. If you've never tried it and you're just looking for like a good sort of house pour, you've got people coming round, you might not want to touch your more expensive stock, buy a bottle of that and just enjoy a decent sized glass of it with dinner, with your favourite book, with a meal, whatever. But yeah, very, very good quality whiskey, and by all means, make sure you pick one up. But thank you all for watching. I'm Phil, this is Whiskey Wednesday, and that was Compass Box Artist Blend. I'll see you next week. Cheers.